I remember playing hide and seek in school and hiding right behind the tree that the seeker was counting at. I remember being jealous of all the kids that got to eat lunch at the school cafeteria, and I remember being dissatisfied with the contents of my own lunchbox. A cheese sandwich, a granola bar, an apple, a pack of apple juice. I also remember Mr. Drivas, our drama teacher, and he would tell us that he was actually an alien, and then he would let us feel a weird protruding bump on the back of his head, to which we all screamed with shock and disgust. I remember being in the school library and flipping through random library books and accidentally finding the word sex in The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman, I think. I would come back several times just to open that book, just to read that word again. I remember Eleni coming screaming into the classroom saying that she saw an alien in the girls' bathroom. And that scared the crap out of all the kids. I mean, she was crying so hard that even the teachers had to go and check it out. I remember being very happy and proud when I correctly guessed the amount of gummy bears in the biggest candy jar at the school candy guessing competition. It was 400. I remember my headmaster's name was Mrs. Bear, which my parents thought was hilarious, you know. Oh, Mrs. Bear, Mrs. Bear, oh, I'm Mrs. Bear. And every week we'd have to write her a letter about what we had learned. I remember being disappointed that I didn't get the Student of the Year award. I also remember trying to convince Mrs. Bear that it was actually me who deserved it. Fighting with Achilleas in class, then arranging at his house for a play date, letting bygones be bygones. Crying really hard when I tripped and fell with my knee on a pine cone. Mrs. Psalidas was always so strict about bringing back library books. But in spite of this, I never really brought them back. In fact, I can see them from my shelf as I write this. Hello kids, and welcome to a Happy New Learning class. And today, look over there, and look here, and look over there. Yes, that's right, triangles. And today, we're going to be learning many new things about triangles. Now, you may remember from our last class about polygons that triangles are a special type of polygon with 3 sides and 3 angles. And that's where the word triangle comes from. Tri means 3 and angle means, well, angles. So that's simple enough. But what else is there to know about triangles? Well, for starters, not all triangles are the same. And then we understand that we need a way to classify them. Triangles can be classified by their sides, and they can be classified by their angles. Let's start by classifying them by their angles, because that's what we learned about in our last class. Follow me. So as you recall from the last class, there are right angles, there are obtuse angles, and there are acute angles. Right angles are 90 degrees. Obtuse angles are more than 90 degrees, like 150 degrees, and acute angles are less than 90 degrees. For example, 44 degrees Celsius, which was by far the hottest day that summer in Athens. And walking with that note in my hand, I didn't know if I was sweating because it was so hot or because I was so nervous. All the kids were outside during recess. I could hear their screaming and shouting from the windows, the open windows, as I slowly approached the bag. Hey Eric, what are you doing? What? It's recess. Why are you inside? Oh, hey, why are you touching Nancy's bag? I'm not touching it. What's that in your hand? Is that a note? No. Well, is that a note to Nancy? Are you in love with Nancy? No, I'm not in love. Hey guys! Hey guys, come here! Eric is in love with Nancy! No, I'm not in love with Nancy! I'm not! I brushed the scary thoughts aside and regained my composure. You see, after a whole year of being madly in love, I was finally taking the first steps towards doing something about it. Before putting the anonymous note into Nancy's bag, I opened to read it just one last time. Your golden hair is beautiful and your eyes are like the blue sea. I'm a goddamn poet. And so I opened the bag and I put the note in. Then I reached into my pocket, grabbed a handful of candy and threw that in for good measure as well. She's gonna be fucking thrilled, I remember thinking. Now, who is this Nancy girl, you might be asking, and why was I so in love with her? Well, she was by far the most beautiful girl in my class. Long hair, big blue eyes, a pale face with a beautiful smile. A very friendly, very kind, and very feminine girl. She was like an angel, and from the beginning I remember being madly in love with her. I also remember being very scared. Of what, you might say? Rejection? Maybe. But on a deeper level, I think a part of me was scared of all these really strong emotions that were coming from the inside. And I was afraid of being overwhelmed by them. And so tick tock, and it was tick tock, tick tock, I'm the biological clock and I'm releasing follicle stimulating hormone FSH, gonadotropin hormone releasing GnRH, luteinizing hormone LH, and testosterone into your stream, which may affect your self-esteem. I had no choice. I had absolutely no choice but to go where it was pointing. And it was pointing at her. I remember being very secretive about this whole thing. Alongside putting anonymous notes into her bag, I'd also go to the supermarket with my mom and we'd buy these really shiny stickers, because stickers were the shit back then. All the cool kids had stickers, and we would put them on her, I would put them on her designated desk in class. Obviously she never knew it was me because they were also anonymous. Nancy, she became this object of my fascination and desire, and I was in love with her, and no one could know about it. Something new is happening, and everyone is on their way. Whoa, 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 whoa! Boom, bum, boom, 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 whoa, 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 whoa! Spread the word. A new thirst-quenching flavor is here. Boom, bum, boom, 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 and it's liquid cool. The new Capri Sun lemonade. It's Zany and Zany April on Kids WB, and we're including thousands of Zany prizes. Kids got a chance to win a handheld DVD player prize pack, or 500 Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets DVDs, or EA games for Game Boy fans. Now write, because the Zany and Zany phrase is Zoomy Broomy. Now write Zoomy Broomy on a postcard with your name, age, address, and phone number, and mail it to Zany and Zany April Giveaway, P.O. Box 70, Ohio, California 93024, or enter at kidswb.com. Keep watching for more chances to win in the Kids WB competition on Kids WB. Now, at the time I had a best friend, and his name was Stepan. Actually, his name was Stjepan, a Croatian name, but yeah, the teacher got his name wrong on the first day. She mispronounced it, and from then on, he was known as Stepan. We would always sit next to each other on the school bus, and we were best friends. You know, we'd talk about everything. Movies, superheroes. My favorite movie was Harry Potter, and his was Lord of the Rings, which was a constant struggle between us, you know, a constant rivalry between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. However, we did have a mutual love for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was obviously the coolest superhero of all time. And so, we would be, half of the time literally, we would be talking about what we would do if we were him, you know? What we would do if we had those the powers of Spider-Man, you know? And actually, I even used to write my own like knockoff versions of Spider-Man. For example, Snowman, you know? Like a man that could shoot snow out of his hands and ice and stuff like that. And, and it was actually starring Peter Potter. Like actually, his name was Peter Potter. I'd bring them to Stephen and for him to read, and yeah, we would have a lot of fun. But one moment sticks out for me. I remember boarding the school bus one morning, and I found Stephen sitting sullenly at one of the seats in the back. And so I went there and I sat next to him and asked him what's up. With a really slow head turn, he turned towards me, and he said that I wouldn't believe it if he told me. Of course I wanted to know, so he turned his head out to the window, his eyes passing at the passing scenery outside. Something happened last night, Eric. What do you mean? Something strange. Well, tell me then. Well, you see, I think I got bitten by something. What? When? Just last night. I don't remember so much, but I remember being awoken by this very sharp pain. I must have just didn't know what was happening, and so I just fell back asleep, though I had very, very, very strange dreams. So then I woke up and I thought I had dreamt the whole thing, But then, Stephen said, as he showed me his sleeve like this and put his hands on his sleeve, then I saw this. I looked at it. There, in the middle of his forearm, were two small dots. And they weren't even that small. They were huge! And it was spaced at least 3 centimeters apart. And the funny thing is that one of the crater of these bite marks still had a bit of blue in it from a big ballpoint pen. I feel strange, Eric. I feel like something's happening to me. I remember rolling my eyes, rolling them back, all the way back until I could see a very fast moving object moving straight towards my face. I ducked and it flew past me into the net behind me. Eric, come on, pay attention. I looked at the field and I saw Samir and Nicholas high-fiving each other, my classmates. On the other side of the field, Stephen was there with a really worried expression. Don't be afraid of the ball, man. Yeah, easy to him to say. He was the best football player of our class. His father was a famous Croatian football player, He could do all sorts of tricks with the ball, He can take it like this, he can go like this. And he can even do one trick where he has it on his foot like this, and then he goes whoop like that, And then I don't know what else happens, but this one, when he kicks it up, He could do all sorts of those things. I know, he was great. He was absolutely great. But I was terrible. That's why I always got put to be the goalkeeper, But yeah, even though I was so terrible, whenever we were picking teams, he would always pick me first because we were best friends. And that felt good, even though I didn't really like football. In fact, I kind of hated it, actually. Well, so come on, Eric, come on. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. Come on. Just follow the ball. Just follow the ball. Follow the ball. Follow the ball. Follow the ball. A horse. Another horse. And another horse. 3 horses came out from the stables from outside the school fence, and I watched as they circled the perimeter of it. The 2 horses in the back were majestic. They were like white with brown spots, and their manes were so beautiful, They were bobbing up and down to their brisk steps, just like fluttering in the wind. And then the 3rd horse in the back was kind of smaller, and it had this like irregular like gait to its like running, So like it was perpetually trying to catch up. I followed these 3 horses until I could no longer see them. Until they disappeared behind the woods that were close to our school. But my gaze continued. And it continued to the other side of the schoolyard, where some girls were playing make-believe. Nancy loved horses. I'd do whatever I could. I promised myself I'll do whatever I could to get her one. I remember pine processionary caterpillars and the really long trails that they would make from the nearby forest into the schoolyard. Hundreds of them, just following each other. Hundreds, furry, spiky. And the teachers would tell us not to touch them because they were very poisonous. I remember playing pirates on the school jungle gym. I also remember the school crosshatch fence that separated the schoolyard from the bus lane. I always thought that was a bit of a funny fence. It looked like an accordion that you could pull out and pull in and pull out and pull in, you know. I also remember playing a really strange game of spit tag with a weird boy called Alexander, which was basically like us running around trying to spit on each other. I remember my first detention, getting my first detention, probably for my involvement in spit tag. Now, another thing that I remember is the cues that we'd make outside in the schoolyard before we'd go into the building, you know. And ours was always next to this really big tree. But the thing about this tree, which was like 1 meter in diameter, is that it was growing diagonally out of the ground, like at a 45-degree angle, you know. If you drew a line between the ground and that tree to form a closed shape, you would have, a triangle. Now, let's recap. There are right triangles, there are obtuse triangles, and there are acute triangles. So, an important thing to know is that for each of these three shapes, the new angles that were formed are all acute angles. Triangles, then, always have at least two acute angles, and it's the other angle that determines what type it is. So, okay, classifying triangles by their angles is pretty simple, but we can also classify triangles by their sides. If we look at a triangle and its sides, we'll see that there's actually three possibilities. One, I stop being friends with him right on the spot. I get up, I throw my bag in his face, and I go to find another place on the bus. Two, I tell him exactly how I feel, and I risk losing our friendship. He would certainly get very mad, and it would get really awkward between us. And three is, I don't tell him anything. I keep silent. He will never know how I truly feel, but hey, we'll still remain friends. His words echoed around my head that rainy morning on the school bus. I love Nancy, Eric, he said. Stephen's face was really stern, like as if he had been processing this for a long time and finally decided to tell someone about it, you know? And who better to tell it to than to his best friend, who could always listen to whatever he had to say. You know, I remember one morning I was just walking around in our garden. Nothing specific doing, you know, just playing with sticks and scavenging behind trees and bushes, you know, the usual kid stuff. Our house was situated on a hill, so our garden had several levels. I remember going upstairs to check on the grapes that my mom had covered up with her stockings to prevent birds from pecking on them. But on the way there, I saw something strange. You see, our floor outside was made up of these like large flat stones, but one of them was missing. And in its place was something else. So I went and I touched the thing with my stick. It seemed to be some sort of weird squishy sand, and I got excited because when on the beach, I used to love using a stick to write words on the sand, you know? So I sat down there and I wrote the only word that had been on my mind for that entire time. I spelled out Nancy slowly and carefully, Nancy, and added a little heart to the end. Then I stepped back and I smiled and I looked at the sky. If only she knew how much I loved her, how strong my love was, how it would never, ever, ever fade. And that was the first instance in my life of be careful what you wish for. Because when I came back to that spot to erase it, it refused to do so. Hard as I tried to smudge it off, the grooves that I had made with the stick and the squishy sand, they didn't yield at all. In fact, they were completely rock solid. I tried hitting it with my stick, but that didn't help. I even ran behind the apricot tree and got some big stones and tried to hit it with those, but even that didn't work. I even remember putting boiling water on it, but whatever I did, nothing worked because the name Nancy was now fully engraved in the dry patch of concrete, and it was there for everyone to see. I panicked. My heart started beating faster and tears welled up in my eyes. Oh, the timing could not have been worse. My birthday party was scheduled to be in a couple of days, and my mom had invited all 28 classmates from my class to come and celebrate here. Worst of all, Nancy would be there, and even worse than that, Stephen too. Oh no. Everyone is gonna see it, and everyone's gonna know that I love Nancy, and everyone's gonna think that I'm weird. And worst of all, Stephen is gonna find out, and I don't even know what he's going to say or do. He'll definitely not want to be friends with me anymore. I will lose my only best friend, and who will I sit next to on the bus? Who's gonna pick me for their team during recess? I don't want to be the last one to get picked. I don't want everyone to hate me. I don't want to be alone. Okay, now that you know so many new things about triangles, let's learn one more very important thing. So, since triangles are always composed of three angles, those angles have their measurements in degrees, right? So the important thing is that you take those angles of measurements, you merge them together, and when you do so and you add them up, they always add up to 180 degrees. And this works for any type of triangle. Knowing the amount of angles that the triangle has and that they always add up to 180 degrees can really help you solve complex geometry problems. Now, that's all we're going to learn about triangles in this lesson. As always, thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye.